You don't have to love me, but you will respect me. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Basic AF. I am Tom Anderson, and as always, I am joined by joyful Jeff Battersby. Good morning, Jeff.
I'm already salty, Tom. We didn't even start with the music. What the heck was up with that? I mean, the audience gets it, but I'm standing here waiting to dance, and you're screwing me up by not playing the lead-in music. How can I even start the show?
Because you're salty.
Because I am salty.
I wanted to keep you in that spirit.
Good. You've done well.
So we're going to have a very, we'll say, exciting show today, because I'm going to keep pushing Jeff's buttons and keep him fired up. He had a studio malfunction first thing today before we even got the show started. He's like, I'm not hearing anything, Tom. I'm not hearing anything. Can't even hear myself.
Yeah, which is a problem. Nobody's listening to me, including myself.
And so for this episode, we're going to flip personas. Tom will be me, or Jeff will be Tom, and I'll be Jeff. I couldn't even say that right.
Please look in your programs. In today's show,
right?
Tom will be playing Jeff Battersby, and Jeff Battersby will be playing the cranky Tom Anderson.
Yep. And while I cover these first couple little things here, bump your gain up just a tad.
Okay, bumping my gain.
Yeah. Again, dear listener, this is because of the studio malfunction earlier.
Well, I won't call it a malfunction, man.
Go ahead.
Kids were in here screwing around
there
with
we go.
Stuff.
So this is episode 58. Show notes for this show can be found at basicafshow.com/58.
Thank you. 58.
58. Yeah. Look at us.
Now it's older than me. I wish.
So we have a packed show for you today, so we're just going to jump right into it.
It's hot.
Apple has announced the dates for this year's WWDC, so the Worldwide Developer Conference, June 9th through the 13th, all online, all for free. And they are going to have an event in Cupertino the day of the keynote, like they've done in the last couple of years. So some people will get invited out there to sit in the sun maybe and have some snacks while they stream the keynote to some displays there. And Tim and Craig and probably some others will step up here every now and then and speak to the people.
I'm going to say it's a mistake.
What's a mistake?
The mistake's streaming that stuff. Should be live.
Oh, I wish they would too.
Yeah, it needs to be live. I think, again, as we talked about in the last show, I think this is a problem because you can make magic with video that you cannot make with live work.
Right. So we'll see what new vaporware they have planned for us this year.
Jeez. Okay.
Which that's probably not fair to say because they have shipped a lot, but
they have.
We'll see.
Just not the stuff they promised.
Well, at least on the Siri front, yeah. So I guess we'll see what Apple Intelligence updates they provide, which probably around the Siri enhancements, who knows? But then the other kind of, I guess, rumor is the kind of look and feel update, the user interface, maybe some changes there to bring iOS, iPadOS, macOS a little bit more in alignment with a little sprinkling of stuff they did in visionOS on top of it, which I'm a little bit intrigued about that.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Definitely.
So, and that's something they're usually very good at.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that the UI stuff will be interesting and fun. And if you look at any of the forums, the Android people are like, "About time."
Yeah, so it's definitely March.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Whatever, people. As long as it works.
Right.
That's the thing I care about. So yeah. All right.
So,
cool.
Of course, we'll give you a full recap when that happens, and after, and probably have a guest or two join us for that to get additional insights. Yeah. That'd be fun. Have a panel, as they say.
We like a panel.
We do.
So, all right.
Next.
All right. So for those of you that are Severance fans, if you go to Apple's site right now under Mac, Apple's selling a new computer called the Mac Lumon Terminal Pro. Again, you have to kind of be a fan of the Severance television show, which is quite good. Season just ended a week ago. And I will tell you that obviously Apple's not really selling this, but what this is a link to a video about the making of really the last episode of Severance, which I'm going to say was pretty brilliant, really amazing, a lot of fun. That video is quite good, and you can see the editors working on in the back end using Mac Minis, and that's kind of the cool thing. A lot of people all the people using on the production team are using Mac Minis. So, mind you, not Mac Studios, but Mac Minis to be able to do this editing work. Other people remoting in to the same Mac Mini, and when they were on set, the Mac Minis are set up, I think, in one of the editor's studios. They were using MacBook Pros, and I can't remember one other Mac to be able to connect to those and do the work. And they were, obviously this is an Apple video, so they were very much beating the drum of this Mac Mini is a killer machine, which it is. Tom, you have one in your hands, correct? You're using one of those at the office?
Well, we have one, and you're going to laugh when you hear what it's being used for.
Okay, great. So it's a display for Zoom rooms.
It's even a little less than that. It's Zoom digital signage.
Oh, well, you guys are really pushing it to the limits with that.
Because they're so cheap, I'll say.
Okay, inexpensive,
but cheap for us. It's $4.99, I think, is what we get those for.
Dang.
And so last year we did this project. So we put Zoom rooms in some of our classrooms, and so with Zoom and the license agreement that we have, we get, I'm sure there may be technically some limit, but it's unlimited digital signage if you have the Zoom Room license. And so we had an old digital signage system that was running on these Android devices. And so those were kind of reaching end of life, and we were going to update those. And we looked and it was like, well, how much are those boxes? And they're like, well, they're like $400. And I'm like, well, crap, Mac Mini's only $499.
Right.
We could use the Zoom digital signage. So we did that. And plus for us on that is that we could put it into our MDM, which we've already got a bunch of stuff into, so we can manage them. We've got ARD access into them, or Apple Remote Desktop. But the biggest benefit was we could turn our marketing folks loose in the Zoom admin portal, managing the signage, where before they had to send it to one of our folks, and it was kind of a stupid setup, basically. And so because they would be like, and other people were sending us stuff, so the business school, hey, could you put this up on the TVs? And that's not what we should be doing.
No.
And so marketing took it over. So they bless everything, and it's working out great. We've got 37 or 8 of those around campus now. So, but anyhow, back to your story.
Yeah. So anyway, the video, really, really good insider look at what was going on, both with the shooting of, I don't want to spoil anything for those that haven't seen Severance, but one of the last scenes, I will say, has a complete marching band in it, which was frigging phenomenal. And they were showing how they shot and edited that particular scene and what they did in order to edit all those pieces. Now, the interesting part of this story is the Severance film editing team does not use Final Cut Pro, and we'll have a link to both the Lumon Terminal Pro and the Severance. This is the Apple Insider article that says Severance Editor was all in on Apple hardware, but not Final Cut Pro. They're using Avid. And a lot of that, if you read the article, comes down to the fact that when Apple made that big Final Cut jump to Final Cut X or 10 or whatever the heck it was called back in those days, it cut out so many features initially that editors were used to using that they had to jump ship. So that's the interesting story. I think Final Cut is now back up to speed, but most editors who may have been using Final Cut Pro are using Premiere, W Premiere, or they're using Avid, not Final Cut.
Bunch dumped over to DaVinci Resolve too.
Okay, yeah, you would know because you have all the fun stuff at your job. So anyway, really, really interesting. But if you're at all interested in kind of behind the scenes of how things work and what's going on in the editing studio and what it is that they were able to do. I highly recommend it. That marching band scene, they said, I think they had 9 cameras shooting that particular scene. And so they had 9 pieces of film, we'll call it, really video, but film that they were able to kind of build the moment with. And it was really incredible to watch. And one of the things, and I'll just say this out loud, obviously I'm an arts head, and that will be part of the later part of our conversation as well. But one of the things that, people see a movie, they go, oh, man, it's just a movie, no big deal, nothing going on. A bunch of people who can memorize other people's lines and do work. One of the things I love about theater, one of the things I love about TV is how collaborative it is. It is a collaborative art, and it takes everyone from a director with an idea to actors being able to take whatever information they're getting from that director and create a moment and a person, and in the case of Severance, multiple people in the same actor. And then you've got this whole group of people, including the director, who are putting the pieces of that puzzle together in such a way that you have something compelling to watch. And this season and that final episode of Severance, very compelling if you haven't watched it. By the way, available to you on Amazon now as well. If you don't have an Apple TV Plus subscription. Brilliant work and really insightful as far as what's going on. So highly recommend that you go check out the Lumon Terminal Pro for purchase on Apple's website, and have a look at the video. Really good stuff. And Tom, I know you haven't seen Severance, so I don't want to blow anything up for you. But
first season, not the second. And those behind the scenes videos are always, just from me being a nerd, those are always kind of interesting just to see what happens. We should do that for this show. I could give a tour of the closet here. I've got some empty boxes up in the upper right, a couple suits here, and a couple of button-down shirts, some T-shirts down here, and that's my 2% of the closet. And then, which is all I need. I'm perfectly fine with that. But,
and I'm in the basement with Jeffrey Dahmer still. But I have cute lights.
And a busted studio.
Busted studio. I'm going to be salty about that for a minute, I think.
All right. So now it sounds like you've got a new app that you've been playing around with me.
So, yes. I don't even know where I saw this. I think it showed up on the App Store, and I decided to have a look at it. Apple, I think it was an Apple Design Award winner about maybe in 2024. Don't know. But it is an app called Gentler Streak. It's a workout app, and I'm looking at it on this device right now, and it says I can't use it on this. Of course, I can't use it on my Mac, and that's fine. It's good for iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, and iMessage. Go figure that one out. I guess you can send messages about what you're doing. But what this is I would call it an enhancement to Apple's Activity app. So Apple's Activity app is good. It tells you how much you've slept. It tells you how much you've walked or run or done whatever it is that you're doing in order to work out. In Tom's case, going into the garage and pumping weights, man.
Clanging and banging, baby.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's like not so much me. I'm a hiker, soccer player, and lie on the couch or something like that. One of those things is what plays for me. But this is a really well-designed app. Actually, Apple rated it as one of their essential health and fitness apps in the App Store. And what I'd say about it's giving you the same information that Apple's Activity app is giving you as you work with it. But what it does do is it provides essentially a little more detail on what it is that you are or aren't doing. So, for example, I do wear my watch to bed, and I use it to track my sleep, and Apple's Activity app will tell you that, you got 6.5 hours sleep. You aimed for 7, you got 6.5, and then it will give you basically a picture of what took place during your sleep. But in the case of in the case of Gentler Streak, it kind of explains what it is that you need to do to get better sleep. So I'm typically sleeping well, good REM sleep, not a lot of awake time, good core sleep, actually a lot of core sleep. But one of the things that I noticed is, and this is what it told me because I didn't know it made any difference. Core sleep. What it was saying is that the final piece of sleep that you're supposed to get, which is deep, I was not ever hitting what I would need for recovery. And so, like last night, I decided I was going to go to bed earlier than I usually do and let myself wake up whenever I woke up. So I ended up getting almost 9 hours of sleep, which is kind of crazy, but I think I'm still recovering from flying to California and, on the day of the time change, which is always my worst day of the year anyway. And so I think I'm still trying to catch up from that. And this told me what it was that I needed to do, which was I needed a little longer, a little more sleep, a little longer sleep. And maybe I need to adjust my typical 7 hours to something that's closer to 8 to be able to get back to that. But I wasn't getting that from Apple's activity app. I was not, all I was getting is, you just about reached your goal, or you went a little over your goal, or whatever it was that I got. The other thing about this app that's kind of clever, and, I do a lot of hiking, and it actually collects information while you hike, and I am using the All Trails app to be able to, mark out a trail or track where it is that I'm going. Good feature. I've decided not to use it on my watch because it's just not good as far as finding out where you are on the watch, but on my phone, using it as a trail map, it's great. What this does is it plots a schedule for you based on your activity that is designed to give you a fair amount of rest after you work out rather than just pushing yourself. So last weekend, went for a hike on Saturday, played soccer on Sunday, and it basically said, "Whoa, Nelly, you played an hour and a half of soccer and you hiked for a couple hours. You need to chill a little bit." And so I did. I paid attention to it, and so I feel like it's going to help me be a little more thoughtful about how it is that I'm working out, what I'm doing, and it's giving me some guidance in that way. So, fun app, weird, really weird subscription levels. Tom, you sent to me a screenshot this morning that said, I won't say it on here, but what kind of pricing is that? And what it is they have, what it is if you buy into their subscription plan immediately, basically within 48 hours of downloading and using the app for the first time, you get a pretty steep discount, about 40%. Otherwise, you're paying for family plan, and that's the only thing that it goes on. You're paying for either full price, which is about $55, or on the discounted plan, it's $33, which is 3 times 11, whatever.
Right. Anyway, I wonder if that's like an app store.
It might be,
because the pricing is okay, but what it says Gentler Premium Yearly Family 1 year, $27.49, and then there was a monthly, and then there was another Gentler Premium Yearly Family 1 year, which was $54.99, and then there's another Gentler Premium Yearly Family 1 year, $32.99, and then down below there was a monthly, and there's 4 or 5 other ones there. So, and one was the discount, one was without. But I just wonder if they can't put that in the list, because that's what was confusing. It's like, well, why is the yearly family $27.49, and then there's 2 others that are 2 different prices, and that's probably App Store stuff.
Yeah. It's a little wonky in terms of how it goes, but all that to say, in terms of app, truly great.
Yeah. So I looked at this 2-3 years ago, maybe. I've lost track of time, so it could be way longer than that. But
100 years.
and so it's one of those coaching apps. And one of the things that was the whole gentler streak when it first started was to basically allow you to have off days for your rings before Apple built that into watchOS here in the last update, I think it was. So then they moved in and started adding other features, like the coaching features, which will show your exertion, your sleep, all of that. So the one I use is Athletic.
Yeah, you've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, and so that's another one. I did test Bevel. I always want to say Bezel, but it is not. It is Bevel. And it's another one of those apps. It was $50. Looks really nice. But they all do kind of the same thing, and then they layer on some other stuff on top to try to differentiate a little bit, because they all pull data from the health app. And so heart rate variability, sleep information, respiratory vitals, your temp and all that, and typically lean heavily into the heart rate variability to show like your recovery score for the day.
Yes.
The newer things they've started to add is these, I think Athletic calls it their battery score. And so it's just like you start the day off at 100 and you wear it down, and then you recharge overnight. One thing that was kind of fun on these are the stress levels. Like they'll use that same information and then show you like your stress. And last year about this time, I was having a medical procedure done, and I'm sitting in the lobby, and it was like a multi-step procedure. Go one day, go again 3 weeks later, whatever. And I was a little nervous, and so I looked down, and the stress meter was pegged at like 100. I was like, okay, so I know that works.
Yeah, I'm stressed.
So that's good that there's more and more of these. I think Athletic is about $30 a year. Bevel is about the same price as Gentler Streak. It's about $50.
Okay.
But
yeah, it's a lot. I don't know if
I'll
do that after a year. That's a lot of money.
Right.
I think if everybody that's on my family plan decides to use it, then it's worth it.
Yeah. So what I did with, so they all have complications for the watch. And so I set up an automation so that the watch face changes at 8:15 each morning and goes to a Athletic watch face, which is basically, I think, what is this face called? I don't know, but it's got, I tried to do it. I completely failed, but it has the complications from Athletics. So it shows the recovery score. It shows the, they'll show like a daily exertion target for you to try to hit. So it's got that on it. It's got heart rate, breathing rate, and I put another one for a habit tracker on there. And then at 8:45, it switches back to my other watch face. So I kind of get a dashboard in the morning of how things went, and then it goes back.
It gives you an idea what you need to do. Like that. It's pretty slick. All right. Next up, this is kind of a fun one, silly. I was tooling around the App Store the other day, and I saw an app that was featured on Apple's, in the App Store, as they often do, about an app called Notebook Artillery, which I will say when I saw it, I was immediately drawn to my youth, which was a million years ago. So many years ago, I can't even remember. Yeah, Utes. I can't even remember when I was playing these games. I seem to recall it was somewhere between 4th and 5th grade, where you took a notebook and you drew all these little pictures, and you had towers that you needed to hit, and then you would shoot cannons and kind of blow stuff up. A developer has created this game, a guy named Austin Ivan Smith. By the way, this is apparently a game made almost entirely by AI. That's what the developer says. And then he jokes and says, AI as in me, Austin Ivan Smith.
That's good.
Which is really, really clever. What he says is, once upon a time in the late 20th century AD, near the turn of the penultimate decade of the millennia, and he goes on to say that he, had played games on his middle school computer where he was blowing stuff up, and always there was a notebook at hand where you would draw, pictures and try to blow stuff up. This is entirely hand drawn. It looks like it's on a it looks like it's in a notebook from high school, including the launch screen. It has a bunch of stickers on it and looks like one of those blue-backed or blue books that you might have used to use. It's just silly fun, like light, clever, has wind speeds and a bunch of other things that make it so it's fun to do. And it is, other than the fact that Mr. Ivan Smith is the one who created it, there's actually zero AI used in this to create this. So good times, good fun. Highly, highly recommend this. 99 cents. So for $1, you can have hours of silliness and just really enjoy it. 99 cents, worth every penny.
All right. So far, you've cost people $56 today.
Well, maybe.
Give or take.
If you spend the money. All right. Last thing, and then we're going to fight. The last thing is, this is kind of an interesting thing that I discovered the other day. I texted you about it. I was watching one of the NCAA championship games, one of the March Madness games. And when the ads would come on, I was watching it on Max, by the way, but when the ads would come on, I would mute it. And then it would stay muted, and I was doing something else, probably looking at my phone and texting you. I heard the volume pop up ever so slightly when it went from the commercial break to the game. And I thought, that's weird. I thought actually that my AirPods. Good God, I'm old. My AirPods had dropped is what I thought. I thought I was hearing the audio coming from the television. And so I went and checked it, and I was connected to my AirPods, and then I hit the mute button, and it came back up to the level. So tested it out, did it again when it went to the next commercial break, and sure enough, it repeated the same thing. Interestingly, per your suggestion, I muted it during during a game, and it popped up during the ad. So I don't know that it knows that you're watching a game. I think what it senses is that blank space between the ads and whatever it is that you're watching, and it pulls it back up at that point. But I thought that's a really slick feature that I would love if it muted automatically when you were watching the game and they went to an ad and then popped it back up when you didn't. That would be flipping brilliant.
AirPods version of TiVo. Remember that?
Oh, dude,
Let me skip the ads.
Yeah, well, that's why I got a TiVo when I had one. Anyway, I thought it was a really slick little feature that I was not aware of at all. I don't even think it's advertised anywhere, but it's definitely there. And I don't know if it's tied to the Apple TV. I don't know whether it's tied to the AirPods. I'll have to experiment with it more, but pretty slick.
Well, and when it came back on with the low volume, did it get, I can't remember what you said. Did it get louder, or did you have to go back and unmute it and then it went back to normal?
So it did. What happened is about a minute or two in, it then popped up another level. And then if I hit the mute button, it came completely up.
Okay.
So
I wonder if that's kind of like hey, your thing is playing and maybe you forgot to unmute it.
Correct. Right. I think it's that. But it really was tied to the end of that commercial break when I muted it during a commercial, which I often do. Don't tell the advertisers. So it's, and I don't know whether it may well be part of the Apple TV, although I did do the same thing without the AirPods in, and the Apple TV did not do that.
Right. Okay.
It didn't pop it up. If I muted it, it stayed muted. So just an interesting thing that I'm curious about. So that's it, Tom.
Okay. All right. Well, you wrote the headline for this next section. I'll let you say it.
I still don't like AI, Tom. Fight!
That's not exactly what you said.
No, I didn't. I said I still don't love AI, but I've made the change. I don't like it.
You don't have to love me, but you will respect me.
Well, and let's start with what you said to me when we were having a little AI conversation the other day. Quote, Tom, no shame in the game, bro, because I said you're trying to AI shame me.
Which we're going to come back to why in a minute.
Yeah, we'll come back to why. But I said, no shame in the AI. You said, no shame in the AI game, or in the game, bro. Jeez, I can't even read my own writing. No shame in the game, bro. You had too much sleep. But I'll let you know when I start dinging performance reviews because people aren't using the tools. Almost to the point where it's like, yeah, I don't use Google or computers for work. I like to do it all by hand, pen and paper. That's fine, yo, but do it somewhere else.
What a hard ass.
Dude, you're
I was in a mood that day, wasn't I?
Yeah. This is the normal salty Tom instead of salty Jeff.
Right. Yeah. So
talk to me, pal.
Let's talk about that.
I hate you too.
It's all in love, though. So that's okay.
Yeah.
So Ethan Mollick is a professor of management at Wharton, and I guess we could call him an AI expert at this point. Oh, yeah. He's done a lot of studying, a lot of research, a lot of looking into the different AI models, where they've progressed, where they fall short, where they even do an update and say, hey, this isn't working as well as it did before the update. So kind of has his finger on the pulse of all that. He wrote Co-Intelligence, Living and Working with AI, which is something I've been wanting to read. And as luck would have it, Jeff, my wife was at an HR conference in Nashville this week, and one of the vendors was giving that book away. So she brought one home. So
awesome.
I had a chance to read it. Yeah.
You have to send it my way when you're done reading it, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe buy it.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Sorry. All right. So he released, he writes on Substack. Mm-hmm. Maybe I need some sleep too.
You had not enough sleep.
One Useful Thing is his Substack. And so he has a newsletter that he sends out. And the one that he put out this week was titled The Cybernetic Teammate. And I tend to read all of these just because I think he has a very balanced approach to it, like what all this stuff might mean, what are the pros, what are the cons. And so this one was interesting because he's been working on a trial, a study of sorts, with Procter & Gamble, where they had 776 professionals. That's what they were called in the article. So these are people doing, real work that...
As if any work isn't real. But go ahead, Tom.
Well, no, I mean, it's their day-to-day work. They're not put into a simulation to say, hey, act like you were doing some work here and see how this does. So this was in their day-to-day work. So that was last summer. And so they finally just put out the information here. So keep in mind, this is with the models as of summer 2024. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing, or the findings were pretty interesting. Where did my mouse go? Okay, there we go.
We're all having fun with hardware this morning.
Are. And it's the allergies. It's got to be the allergies.
Mm-hmm. Or the drugs you're taking for the allergies.
Which I haven't done any in a while, so maybe that's it too. So 3 takeaways. I put a bunch of quotes in. I'm not going to read all of that. It was just to kind of track us. We'll link to this. But what they found was in the study, AI boosted performance with these groups. And so what they did, they split these tests out in some different ways. So they had teams that were working without AI and teams that were, but then they had kind of cross-functional teams that would not use AI and that would. And so kind of one of the takeaways, they said teams, when working without AI, teams outperformed individuals by a significant amount. But the surprise came when we looked at AI-enabled participants. Individuals working with AI performed just as well as teams without it. And so then they went on, and teams with AI performed best overall, though the difference between individuals with AI and teams with AI wasn't statistically significant. And this is direct quote here. But we found an interesting pattern when looking at truly exceptional solutions, those ranking in the top 10% of quality. Teams using AI were significantly more likely to produce these top-tier solutions, suggesting that there is value in having human teams working on a problem that goes beyond the value of working with AI alone. Both AI-enabled groups also worked much faster, saving 12 to 16% of the time spent by non-AI groups while producing solutions that were substantially longer and more detailed than those from non-AI groups. Goes on to say a little bit later, it kind of tore down some of the silos of expertise. When paired with AI, both R&D and commercial professionals in teams or when working alone produced balanced solutions that integrated both technical and commercial perspectives. The distinction between specialists virtually disappeared in AI-aided conditions, and we saw a similar effect on teams. This was especially pronounced for employees less familiar with product development. Without AI, these less experienced employees performed relatively poor even in teams, but with AI assistance, they suddenly performed at levels comparable to teams that included experienced members. AI effectively helped people bridge functional knowledge gaps, allowing them to think and create beyond their specialized training, and helped amateurs act more like experts. And the reason I sent that over to you, one, was to troll you with some more AI stuff, because I know you enjoy it. All in fun.
No, fair. And I'm always open. So.
But that mirrored pretty closely to some of the experiences that I have had with the things that I'm doing. And we were going back and forth in the messages this week. And, when I kind of made that snarky off the cuff comment there about the performance reviews.
Sure.
But I was partially being serious, and I do think we're not far from that period to say it is becoming just like, well, I don't know something. Okay, well, we used to say, well, go look it up on Google, right? And how many times would you get aggravated with somebody, hey, how do I do this? And they'd be like, well, did you Google it? And there was even a site, remember that? Let me Google that for you. And you could be a smart ass to them and type it, and it would make a little GIF and send it to them as part of the thing, and it would show them the search. And I think we're kind of at that point. So 18 months ago, as part of our reorganization at work, our AV services team, our audiovisual services team, fell into my group. And I'm not completely for all the joy. Yeah. Not a complete neophyte with AV stuff, but not, I wouldn't say by any stretch, like, I couldn't take a stack of traditional AV stuff like Extron components and program all that stuff out. I could probably learn it, I'm sure, but I've never done it. And so, I've spent the last 18 months or so trying to get up to speed with that. And, we're looking at making some changes to what we're doing. And, we've got the Zoom rooms that we've put in, I mentioned a little bit ago. But we're looking at maybe going with some different hardware. So we're considering the Logitech Rally bars, the Neat bars, I told you that this week.
Yeah, what you're showing me look super sharp, by the way.
Yeah, so those look good, but I wanted some background information, like who else is using these, what problems have they run into, or have there, is there any research showing long-term failure rates, things like that. And so I used the deep research in ChatGPT, wrote a quote, said, hey, what else should I consider? It came back with some other things. Hey, give me the details. Are you looking for a large university, small, private, public? Do you care about, X, Y, and Z? And I was like, okay, that's great, because I hadn't even thought of that. So I put all that in there, and then it ran for 10 or 11 minutes, and it gave me a very long, detailed report of, okay, Dartmouth is doing this, UPenn is doing this, Utah State is doing this, these other schools. But what I liked about it is it sourced all of those things too. So it gave me the link so I could click into it. Higher Ed Magazine says this, Educost says that, and it saved me a ton of time. Like if I'd Googled that,
it'd have taken you a minute, especially with the way Google's set up now,
right?
Where it's not pay to play more than
exactly. And another thing is we redid some job descriptions, like not so much the core responsibilities, but we added some other things about the tools you'll need to know how to use, the soft skills, right, and those sorts of things. Yep. And that was just a couple minute, Chat GPT thing. And I was talking to my wife about that, and she does HR related things. And job descriptions, pretty much 100%, they're starting in Chat GPT, and then they come back and tweak them to finish them up. And I think that kind of ties in nicely with that study.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And to be fair, yes, I am reticent about AI. I think my reticence comes in from a completely different angle, which I'll talk about in a second. But as far as the ability to create, you've shown me things where you've put in requests and it creates tables for you and does a bunch of other things that allow you to, or even some database. I think you showed me some database creation, some ideas about how you might. I can't remember if it was you were looking for a way to monitor what devices you had out there or what, but it is really capable of doing things that would take me ages, say creating Excel spreadsheets with fancy tables and pivot tables and things of that nature in it. Very capable of doing those kinds of things, and I think valuable in the same way that I've been repaired a dryer the other day, and in the process of replacing a switch for one of the burners on my stove. Much cheaper to do that than it is to buy a new stove.
Right.
Which I don't want to have to do right now. And that knowledge obviously has been in videos. There's tons of videos on how to repair anything. And as long as you have a little technical capability, basically the ability to use a screwdriver and see where things plug in and don't plug in, really easy to be able to do that. I've, over the years, repaired dryers and other pieces of equipment simply by doing that. And I see real value in AI in things like that. I mentioned when we talked about the new version of Highland Pro that they are doing some LLM stuff in that, but limited in terms of what they're doing. In other words, it will not write you a sentence, which to me is great. It shouldn't be doing that. What it is doing, though, is I can inline by putting a / ask for a definition or a synonyms for particular words, which typically I'm hopping out to my phone and using the Merriam-Webster app to do the same thing. And once I pick up my phone, what happens? Somebody dog bark. Yeah. One of the I'm able, I get distracted. I am easily, like your dog, I see a squirrel and I chase the squirrel rather than chasing the thing that I'm doing. So the ability to do that in line, while I have not completely embraced it, certainly a valuable thing for me. The big issue that I have, and you sent me a bunch of pictures this week of various scenes from Severance taken from, created in various illustration styles by plugging it into, I think ChatGPT currently has. Yeah, they have integrated stuff like you would have seen in Midjourney a little bit ago. The problem that I have with this is at the IP end of it, the intellectual property end of it. And Studio Ghibli has now threatened to sue the ChatGPT folks because they were recreating or creating images that looked very much like Studio Ghibli animation. I have a problem with the fact, and will continue to have a problem with the fact, that these companies have fed non-public domain information into their systems to train them. And that for people who are not moral, I'll use that word. It's time to go back to church, Jeff. Who are not, who feel no moral obligation not to steal other people's intellectual property are going to create things that have those qualities based on information that was collected and used. I'll say it, illegally. They should not be training their systems on these other systems. So I do see value in AI. And so I still don't love AI. I know I said like earlier. Maybe I like you. I just don't love you, Tom.
Do you like me back? A little check boxes, yes.
Right,
no.
right. And now we're going to start sending notes to each other.
Great.
Right.
Now that'll be our app, just like that artillery.
But that's really where the problem comes. And I do know one of the benefits of writing for me, and one of my professors in my grad school program has said this. She said that she doesn't know what she really thinks about something until she writes it down, until she has the ability to work it out on paper. And for some things where it's just a matter of you need to gather some information and be able to, repair your dishwasher or dryer, I can see AI being useful for something like that. But when it comes to real thought, I still think it's important to have some of that. Yes, interesting and amazing that it brings the level of a novice up to a more professional level when you can plug that stuff in. But is that novice ever then going to gain that information, or is it going to be cat videos that their mind is always looking at? And that is my concern. That remains my concern when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I have not completed the Cybernetic teammate article. I browsed it. I will go through it and read the whole thing. And, so I have some good understanding, but that part is problematic for me. I think that already we have a dearth of thinking people behind computers.
That existed before computers.
It did, right? Lazy people going to be lazy. There's no question about that. And people not interested in,
and it's gotten worse. Like,
oh heck yeah!
So many people have such pissy attitudes and don't want to work, and I'm like, that's great, makes me shine.
Right,
so,
right.
Far less competition.
By doing your usual half-ass job, it makes you shine. I try to see that, Tom.
That's right.
So, anyway, that is where my love ain't love. I do see value in certain areas. Certainly.
Well, and I hope somewhere along the line in the legal system, these things get figured out. So maybe it's a licensing agreement they have to end up coming up with that says, okay, so for each request for something, or you license our stuff, we get paid for it. Or you can't, whatever that ends up being. And that the lawyers will have to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed, I'm afraid. I really do.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Because some of the newspapers, they were like, oh yeah, you can't put our stuff in there. They've already come to agreements, and so they're getting money. So they're like, okay, well, that's better than nothing.
As long as the citations are legit. You seem to have gotten good citations, when you were doing your deep research bit.
Right. And John C. Dvorak wrote a good piece. Do you remember John?
Yeah, I do.
Remember how he used to antagonize the Mac readers?
Yeah, he was a jackass. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I listened to one of his podcasts, and he talked about that just as a side story. And he was like, it was so great because without fail, I would write those pieces and it would aggravate the heck out of them. And the editors loved it because it always kept people coming back.
Right. Of course.
But that was trolling before the internet, I guess.
Trolls always been around.
Trolls have always been around. Yep.
Always under the bridge.
But anyway, he wrote a piece on his Substack about copyright and IP with AI that was pretty good. So I'll throw a link to that.
Yeah, that'd be good to see. I'd like to see that.
So yeah, I agree. Some of that does fall into the sketchy realm, and there's some things to figure out to some degree. What degree it gets solved, I have no idea.
People don't have as much integrity as you do, John.
I think a lot do, a lot don't. It just depends. What it is. If some schmuck is making a Studio Ghibli thing to show on social or post on Twitter or Threads or someplace like that, I don't really get upset about that. Now, if he's using it to make a product that he's going to then make money from, then I start saying, that's a little sketchy. But, is what it is.
Look at us, Tom. We've solved the world's
no problems.
issues in
We've solved no
50
problems.
minutes or fewer.
So this is becoming the basic AI show, Jeff. So maybe
you have to change the logo a little bit, scratch out the
well, we're still robots.
the two legs of the F. All righty, Tom.
All right, Jeff. I know
pleasure
you
to see you as always. I do have to run, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. By the way, we're gonna have a guest in 2 weeks.
Hopefully,
I'm really excited about that. No, think we will have her.
Well, I hope so.
And I'm super
excited. If not in 2 weeks, I mean, it sounds like she's going to do it, but hopefully her schedule holds up.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So we can look forward to a guest in 2 weeks, somebody that I'm really excited to talk to with. All right. So feedback at basicafshow.com. That's a place that you can always send things. We do get feedback, and we appreciate it. You yelling at us and telling us things that we do wrong. We got a whole fun rant about how good Siri is.
We did.
Yeah, and we might have, that was from Benjamin Young Savage, who basically wrote a 3-page email to us via Siri as he was driving south from Canada, which maybe, he won't be able to go to Canada anymore based on what's going on politics-wise, but we'll see. So we really appreciate that kind of feedback, and we may have Benjamin back on to rant at us in person.
My all-time favorite feedback,
yes,
was from your mom. Tell Jeff to get to work.
Yeah, I know. Stop playing games. I'm happy that my mom listens.
Mine doesn't, so we'll take it.
There you go. We definitely will. As usual, our music, which Tom didn't play at the beginning, which made me even saltier. Psychokinetic, Celsius
Dear listener,
7.
you will hear the music.
Yeah, you will hear the music.
You have heard the music by now.
But I like to dance. That's the thing. And Tom screwed me over.
I don't play
morning.
the music. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, Psychokinetics, Celsius 7, in our brilliant artwork. I just got myself a artwork. I have a
speech impediment of some sort.
A little speech impediment this morning. Our artwork is from the inimitable man.
All right, yeah, just take us home, man.
Yeah, right. If you're sticking around this long, Randall Martin Design. He is inimitable. I just can't say it. Tom, anything else? You have your newsletter. Why don't you tell us that?
Sure. TomFAnderson.com/newsletter. Sign up for that if you would like. And I do believe that is it, Jeff.
All right. We're really grateful that you've listened, if you've listened this far. And please continue to tell your friends. Our audience is growing at really kind of leaps and bounds suddenly.
Yeah.
We're starting to get some listeners, and we're really grateful for that. So please tell others, rate us, like us, do whatever you do on your particular app.
Follow us in that app, if you will.
And that's it, Tom. We're
All
done.
Right, like you said, we do appreciate it. Tons of places to get this sort of information. Usually not as in the way that we do it, perhaps, but take what you want from that. But no, we do appreciate you being here. So thank you for that. And we will talk to you in a couple of weeks. Until then, take care.
See ya.